The stock market rally today, March 24th, was caused by reports from Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal, who were apparently talking with unnamed administration officials, that Trump may not impose as many tariff taxes as investors feared. I read all the stories that I could find on this subject, and one mentioned that the situation was fluid, meaning there was no telling what Trump may do next week. He had announced an intention to impose reciprocal tariffs on April 2nd, 2025. The news reports claim that Trump is not currently planning to roll out sector duties on April 2nd. Sector means industry sectors in this context, like autos and uh, pharmaceuticals, but would limit the reciprocal tariffs to 10 to 15 countries. During a cabinet member later in the day, after these reports were released, Trump said that sector tariffs will happen in the next few days, mentioning autos, and then adding that lumber and chip tariffs were down the road somewhere. So, what to make of all of this? The only thing that can be made of the frequently contradictory statements is that there is no clarity at all, and certainly nothing that would justify an all-clear signal on the tariff war issue. Earlier this year, Trump did impose 25% tariff taxes on products that are tariff-free imports from Canada and Mexico under the USMCA trade agreement that Trump negotiated and signed during his first term. The primary tariff-free goods under that treaty are autos, trucks, and vehicle parts that are USMCA compliant as to the percentage of goods manufactured in North America. If he applies the 25% tariffs on those imports that are compliant and entitled to tariff-free treatment, he would be causing the United States to violate the trade agreement that he negotiated and signed. After announcing that treaty violation, Trump delayed their implementation for 30 days, which is about to expire. It is unclear whether there will be another delay based on the comment that he made during the cabinet meeting. The stock jocks are pleased, at least for today, that Trump may not violate the trade treaty that he once lauded as a balanced trade agreement that will benefit the United States, Canada, and Mexico. However, during a recent press conference with President Macron of France, Trump made this comment about the USMCA trade agreement. Quote, "Anybody that would agree to allow this to happen to our country should be ashamed of themselves." End of quote. He was the one that negotiated and signed it. The Republicans have no doubt received very heavy pressure from the auto industry to convince Trump to abide by the trade agreement that he signed. If he actually decides to avoid violating that trade agreement using the fake pretexts of fentanyl and illegal immigrants crossing the Canadian border, then that is and will be a positive for the U.S. economy. Applying 25% tariffs on USMCA compliant products, which are entitled to tariff-free treatment under the tariff agreement that Trump negotiated and signed, along with the existing 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports that Trump recently levied, would drive a new car or pickup truck cost up by $6,000 to $8,000, and the auto companies would have to pass on that cost to consumers once they exhausted their tariff-free inventory. And this would lead to fewer automobile sales and pickup truck sales and layoffs in the United States and those in the automotive and related industries. The harm to the U.S. economy that would be caused by Trump carrying through with all of his tariff threats can be reasonably estimated. Those Republican taxes on U.S. consumer purchases would increase inflation and lower real GDP growth by causing far too many consumers to postpone purchases, hoping to wait out the a rollback in the tariffs, or simply that the tariff increases would last sufficiently long that they would just be unable to afford a significant increase in prices for costly items like a new car or a pickup truck. What is never mentioned by Trump or any Republican politician, to my knowledge, in Washington is that the objective of the Republican tariff taxes are to force companies to relocate manufacturing into the United States. That would require the tariff taxes to be in effect for an extended period, which would only increase the severity of their negative impacts on the U.S. economy. Well, what would be gained if the Republican strategy on tariff taxes is successful, besides making the 40% or so households who pay no federal income tax to pay taxes in significant amounts through the tariff tax increases on goods that they purchase? There would be several thousand higher paying jobs in the manufacturing sector that will be added in the coming years. The economy is now dominated by the service sector, and much higher inflation for everybody else would result from the relocation of those manufacturing plants into the United States. And the higher prices would be paid by those who are employed in the new manufacturing plants as well that have been relocated from foreign countries. According to the latest BLS jobs report, 84% of the private sector jobs in the United States were in the service sector now. The failed hedge fund manager, who is now the U.S. Secretary of Treasury, recently stated that the American dream is not to let consumers buy cheap imports. Scott Bessent, his hedge fund was known as Key Square Group, went from $5.1 billion in assets in 2017 to $577 million in 2023 based on his poor and inconsistent results. Failure is frequently rewarded in America with great sums of money sufficient to land a mediocre performer or someone who does far worse than mediocrity into the billionaires club. A new tariff threat was announced by Trump today that he will be imposing a 25% tariff on all imports from any country that buys oil from Venezuela. That tariff tax will go into effect on April 2nd. There's no telling what's going to go into effect on April 2nd. The purported reason for this tariff tax is to punish the Venezuelan dictator from sending criminals to the United States. There's no proof that I'm aware of that the Venezuelan government is sending criminals to the U.S. that Trump has labeled as terrorists. They come to the United States because there are so many opportunities for criminals to make money in the United States. There would be far fewer lucrative and illegal business opportunities if Americans would stop using illegal drugs. This 25% tariff seems to be directed at China, who is the main importer of Venezuelan oil, but would also hit countries like Spain and India and they're going to squawk big time if they get hit with those tariffs.